I'm looking at you now. Can you tell I'm looking at you?
No, it looks like you're looking over to the side a little. So just look at the hole.
Okay. I'll just stare at the
Yeah,
hole.
that looks better. That
Okay.
looks better. Do my eyes look straight or do they need to be adjusted?
No, they look cross-eyed. No, I'm kidding.
Do they look straight? Does it look like I'm looking at you? Can you tell? Hey guys,
Welcome back to Sister Vibes.
I'm Tara
I'm Alicia.
and we're back again. It's been a couple weeks since our last video. And so we're back again today, and we're going to be just talking about anxiety today. I talked about in our last video, about how I've kind of gone through the therapy route and been in therapy for a little bit. And one of the things I was surprised to learn about myself was that I struggle with anxiety.
That's so funny though.
Because you know what? It's so dumb because like I had no idea. Like I
Mhm.
am almost 39 years old and I had no idea that some of the stuff I was struggling with was actually anxiety. And I think I was in denial about it. I mean, have you ever struggled with anxiety before I talk about myself?
Yes, I have, of course.
Yeah, so you know what it is.
I feel like I've outgrown it kind of though.
Good, good. But
But that
you had counseling though, right? And they kind of
Mhm.
told you about it and gave you some like tips on how to kind of manage it and
Breathing.
Mhm.
Your breathing plays a big part. Just changing the way you breathe helps with anxiety.
Right.
That's what I learned. But I don't think I suffer from like crazy anxiety.
Mhm.
That's why it
Right.
was easy for me to like work through it.
Yeah.
Just changing my breathing.
Yeah. And
Just take deep
you have to,
breaths. Relax.
yeah,
Relax.
you got to stick your tongue out while you do it. That's more effective,
You
apparently.
know, laughing helps too. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
laughter, for
Like
sure.
right above your head, it says laugh.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, and love. That is how you fight anxiety, guys. All right, we're done. Have a great day. No, no. So,
Come back next week for more tips.
yeah, some more tips next week. Yeah, we're going to talk about, I don't know, there will be other topics. Trauma, no. And we'll just say how you get
Get
through it.
over it.
Live, just get over it. What more do you need? Yeah.
That's horrible. There are people that are like that though, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I know. And actually, sometimes that advice does help people. So if it helps you, good. If not, hey, let me dive a little deeper into anxiety. Yeah. So something interesting that I've learned about, a lot of psychological issues and like mental illnesses and stuff like that is that a lot of things like anxiety, depression, just some other fancy words like dissociation and things like that, they all have kind of a spectrum where like one end of the spectrum is like very minor. Like, so most people probably have experienced anxiety in their life, but it could be as simple as having butterflies when you're about to do like a report in front of everybody. Like, just that feeling of uneasiness inside of you. Like, so on the minor end, it could be a nervousness, like, feeling anxious about, presenting in front of people or things like that. And then on the other extreme, people could have such severe anxiety that they will have panic attacks where they can't breathe. Their heart literally feels like it's going to explode. I mean, it just, there's this whole spectrum, and so I think most people probably have experienced anxiety on some
Yeah.
level. um, and so for me, like I always had the butterflies. Like the Lord has used me to speak in front of people a lot. And I've always been so nervous, like every time, but God would like kind of take over in the moment and help me through that. But I never knew that that was anxiety. And
Mhm.
the funny story about that is like, I would say maybe 13 or 14 years ago, maybe, I was going to the doctor because I couldn't sleep and I was like having sleeping problems. And I thought, well, it's from stress or whatever. I didn't know what it was from. And I saw a PA, a physician's assistant in there. Wasn't an actual doctor, but they have more schooling than a nurse, but not as much as a doctor, you know. And I went in there and she was asking me about my family history, like medical history. And I got a little nervous about that because I didn't know any of the answers because we don't talk to our family, you know, and I didn't know any of my family's medical history. So I started to get a little like, you know, like uncomfortable by that. And so she, you know, said, well, you really need to know. She was not very nice. She was not a very nice person at all. And she's like, well, you really need to know this stuff for your family and just like all this stuff. And I'm like, she has no idea like why I'm not talking to my family. She didn't ask. And so she ended up prescribing me an antidepressant.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't want this. Like, I'm not coming in here for depression. Why is she trying to give me this? Right. And then she wrote in my file that I had anxiety, like on my record. I saw it later and I was so upset. I'm like, how did she like put that
She
on?
probably knew that you were nervous about the questions. You were probably like shaking. And didn't
Yes.
notice.
Yes. So this whole time I'm like, oh, she's wrong. I don't have anxiety. Like, no, I was just nervous, you know, all this stuff. Like, and then like I had two other doctors also prescribe me antidepressants, which is kind of anxiety medicine, you know, but they like never told me that I was showing symptoms of that or whatever, because like most doctors have to have a basic like psychology classes and stuff. And so like they know what basic anxiety looks like. And anyway, this whole time I'm like the textbook person for that, apparently.
They're like, oh, this girl has it. Just look at her.
I know, just look at me. She's like, oh, yeah, I want to talk about that. Some of the things that I do, just so other people might be like, oh wow, I do that. Anyway, so this whole time I'm like, no, there's no way. I don't have anxiety. And so like literally my first week that I went to therapy, I was telling my counselor some of the stuff that I was struggling with. And she's like, you know, that's anxiety, right? And I'm like, no way, you know. So it was so mind blowing for me because I'm like, what? The reason I can't sleep, I'm up at 3 a.m. just like worrying about everything, that's anxiety. I had no idea. And
That is
it
anxiety.
sounds so stupid, but like I really didn't know. And so anyway, I was thankful that helped me a lot to hear that from an actual counselor instead of some lady who was mean to me.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, you know, and so
Is there such a thing as situational anxiety? Like depending on your situation?
yes. Yeah.
Because like that's what I've dealt with in the past. Like depending on what I'm going through, that's, you know,
Yeah.
like with Danny mainly, that's when I had the most anxiety in my life.
Yeah.
It's just like what I was dealing with and my
Yeah.
current situation. I mean, but now like I don't deal with any of that. So therefore I don't have much anxiety about anything anymore. It's been great, but
Good.
I wonder if that has
It
anything to
does.
do with people's anxieties, you know?
Yeah, it does. And a lot of it is okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading the time up there. It's saying I have 5 minutes and 20 seconds. It's counting down. Okay. Countdown.
Giving you anxiety.
I'm having anxiety, a situational anxiety right now about this. I have to put it all in before it ends because I, you know, used to pay for a Zoom, but now I don't. And so now I only get like 45 minutes for free until we got to start our next thing. So anyway, yes, there is a lot of like situational reasons why people would experience anxiety. A lot of it has to do with like triggers, like being triggered by things that, you know, like that for you, like you were being abused, you know, there was a lot of abuse and a lot of toxic things going on in your marriage and in your life at that time. So obviously that's gonna, you know, trigger those anxiety responses. And I guess for me, and that's the thing, a lot of times, like from our childhood, like if we've had traumatic childhoods, you know, a lot of the things that we went through are going to still continue to affect us. Like, you know, if that situation that we're in now kind of reminds us of a situation that we had as a child, it's gonna like just naturally,
You're gonna react the same way you did.
yeah, because your
Yeah.
brain just never got healed from that. And so I have experienced that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just super anxious too as a child and, you know, as an adult. Just for there's many reasons why, and two, personality has a lot to do with it as well. Like if you're a more timid person in general, you're probably going to be more prone to being anxious more, just like the dogs. Like
Yeah.
certain dogs that have different temperaments, and some will be more anxious when they hear thunder than others.
Or fireworks
Yeah.
or
Yes.
smoke alarm.
Mhm.
The smoke alarm goes off. Well,
Okay.
that triggered Jasper and he starts shaking uncontrollably. So I don't know what happened with him when he was younger, but the smoke alarm, that beep,
Have the sound.
gives him horrible anxiety.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is a thing.
Penny, our dog, she used to get extremely anxious over seeing a broom. Like anytime I would, have a broom out sweeping or whatever, she'd freak out and run. And so, as a puppy, I think she was probably abused with a broom. And so,
Oh, who
so
did it?
well,
Haley, were you feeding her with a
no,
broom?
no. As a puppy, she would freak out. Eventually she learned that we weren't going to hit her, but we bought her from like a pet store. And so we're thinking that wherever she was born and
Yep, there was a broom.
there was a broom.
Yep, she
And
was hit with, or
so,
scared.
so that's like a natural thing, even in animal brains, to be scared of something that hurt them in the past. And the
Yeah.
same is true of us with that is like when we have been injured or hurt in the past, like psychologically, our bodies, when we're exposed to something similar, is going to react that same way of just if you find yourself randomly just feeling like anxious and like shaky on the inside, like there could be something triggering you about your situation. And just a good thing to do in that moment is just to breathe like Alicia with your tongue out and then
Sometimes if you make a noise too, that helps. Like, ah!
that reminds me of the video of the Grinch. He's like sitting in like a yoga, not yoga, whatever. Is that yoga? I don't know.
He
Where
was in a yoga studio. He was
Yeah.
doing yoga.
yeah, and he just made that really loud noise. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It helps.
Yes, just get it out.
Yeah.
But also just, take time to kind of separate yourself from the situation you're in at that moment. And sometimes you can't separate yourself. And so learning how to like do breathing or just be
Right.
aware, self-awareness really goes a long way. If you can say, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I
This
need
is
to do
why.
something with this instead of just letting it carry you through and yeah. Okay. So what to do in the moment when you're feeling
Right.
that, when you're feeling that sense of anxiety, whether it's, having to do something that you're scared of or uncomfortable with, or just feeling, anxious around certain people.
Right. You know what a lot of people do? They eat.
They eat. Yeah. That's not necessarily the best thing to do. Yeah. There are unhealthy coping mechanisms and healthy coping mechanisms. So you
Eating.
tell me some unhealthy coping mechanisms that maybe you used to do before you learned the breathing thing. What do you remember?
I used to cry a lot.
Yeah, crying. That's
And
kind
then I would overthink like crazy. And then it would cause me to like get in a bad mood or just like a funk to where I couldn't get out of it. And then I wouldn't enjoy my day. I
right.
wouldn't enjoy the boys when they were younger. It was just like, it made my life unenjoyable.
Mhm.
All because of what I was thinking and just being so anxious about what was going on. But,
Right.
and then chewing on things. Do you
Mhm.
chew on things? I still do that
Um,
sometimes.
Sorry, I have
Like plastic, like little pieces of plastic, like a pen cap.
oh
You know,
yeah,
those little
yeah. I used to do that. Now I do other things.
and the flossers, you know, the little, you know what a flosser is?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Chew on those.
yeah. I used to do that. I mean, I think chewing on stuff, if it breaks your teeth, obviously that's not healthy. But I think it's okay to do. But like some people, like in their anxiety, they'll turn to,
Drug.
drugs or like alcohol or just freaking out and
Oh,
like
I've had phases of that too, where I was drinking and doing drugs with Annie, and
Yeah.
yeah, very bad things.
right. And,
But
yeah.
like I said, a lot of it was situational, and it was what I was exposed to, who I was around. So, but it's funny, like I'm not around any of that anymore, so therefore,
Yeah.
I mean, God really, really, He saved me, man.
Oh yeah.
I could have went down a really bad path.
Mhm.
So just because of what I was exposed to,
Right.
just
Right.
man, what was in my life.
Yeah, and there's almost like a sense of helplessness there and
Oh, yeah.
hopelessness. I
Mhm.
think,
Oh, I did. I felt so hopeless. I
yeah,
remember just being on the floor. This is before I left him and filed for my injunction, just
mm,
on the floor crying, just like I was just so ready to be done.
yeah,
I wanted out. I wanted out. That wasn't me. That wasn't the life I wanted to live. That wasn't the mother, I wanted to be for my children. I was just like over it. I was
yeah,
like, please get me out. And then it happened.
yeah. God is good. And I was praying for you a lot through all of that, you know.
That wasn't fun, but
Yeah,
I got through it.
yeah, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And
On to
I
the
think
next.
for me specifically, like the unhealthy, I mean, there are quirky things I do with my anxiety. But the unhealthy things that I would do is run and just avoid and like
I'm
not
sitting here thinking you're putting your running shoes on. I'm
no,
like, that's healthy, Tara.
I should do that. No, but like as in escaping from the
Mhm.
situation, like, when I would have certain situations, like I wouldn't go back. Like I would avoid that person. I would avoid that situation so that I didn't feel that way. And that was like one of my unhealthy coping mechanisms. Another one would be like usually when you are in your anxious state, like an elevated state of anxiousness, that's called being hypervigilant. And like when you're in that state, your mind and your decisions and your thoughts are not going to be the healthiest, in those moments. And some people, like you said, turn to drugs and alcohol in those situations. And I would like, avoid like the flight or fight thing, that response. Mine was flight. Like I'm out of here. Like I'm not going to deal with this. Just avoid it so that I don't have to deal with that. But some of my other quirky things are like, and it's really funny because I did my therapy online. And so in therapy, this is what my counselor saw, this part of me from here up. And so like underneath, she couldn't
You're
see what
like,
I was doing with my hands and my feet and stuff like that. And I'm like moving and I had like pieces of paper in there. I was like ripping the paper, folding it. And then first I folded it like into a bunch of squares and then I would rip it up and then I'd have a pen that I'm like
is that
constantly,
anxiety though?
yeah,
Is it is?
yes.
So maybe I do suffer from it because on my Bible, this little ribbon, I'm constantly messing with it. But I
Mhm.
don't feel anxious right now. I'm just,
Yeah. Sometimes
I don't know, just keeping my hands busy. But I
it's
like to
fidgeting.
mess with it and fold it and roll it and
The
I don't know.
fidgeting.
Yeah, I'm very fidgety.
Yeah, that
I
is
remember our last video in that chair.
like moving around. Yes. Yes.
I was like, I can't
I
sit in chairs like
purposely,
that.
purposely, whenever I was doing my online counseling, did not sit in a spinny chair because
Yeah,
if I would be doing this the entire
yeah,
time.
yes.
So
Why
yeah,
do we do that? I
yeah,
don't know.
it
I
just
just don't sit still. I'm a mover. I
yeah,
like to move.
yeah, a lot of it. Like even for instance, like talking on the phone, for instance, I will like walk and walk
Yeah,
and walk and do laps and I will be cleaning while I'm
yeah.
on the phone. Like it's so interesting how our brains work. It's like I feel disorganized and uncomfortable and anxious on the inside. And so I am like on the outside putting things in order because
Yeah.
inside there's no order. And so outside I'm making things clean and lining it up and straightening it up because I don't feel like that inside. It's very
Why
interesting.
do we do that on the phone though? Because I do the
No,
same thing.
I guess
I
I
do
just am
the same.
uncomfortable.
It's so weird. Talking to me,
No, not you. I do
but
the
I do it
cleaning
when
and
I'm
all
talking to you. I do it if I'm on the phone at all.
that. I
Like,
don't
and
know.
when I make doctor's appointments, I'm like doodling while
Yeah,
I'm
same.
on hold or something.
Same. Yeah, I have pages in my notebook of just random shapes and my name. It just, I don't know why. It's just like a interesting.
That's all anxiety.
Yeah,
Huh.
a lot of that's like on the lower spectrum of
I'm
it.
sitting here thinking, I ain't got anxiety.
Right. Right.
Okay.
It's really funny. Um, it's funny to me. I'm laughing because I was the same way. I'm like, that's anxiety. That's anxiety. Like, what? Oh my gosh. So if you struggle with like ripping up little pieces of paper when you're talking to
Or
somebody or
folding. I
folding,
like to fold.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that's like a healthy way, I think, of processing that. And
Okay.
actually, you know, like if you come from like a traumatic childhood and stuff, some of those injuries will be with you forever. Like,
Yeah.
and so learning the healthy ways to manage that, which is why they have so many fidget things, fidget spinners, fidget devices that kids can use. Adults need those too, honestly, but we do
I
it
love playing with them.
right. We have coped and you know adapted by clicking our pen over and over or
Mhm.
folding stuff, right? But you know, there's a science behind why there are fidget spinners and for kids because
That's
they're
interesting.
going through anxiety
Yeah.
and that helps them. It's like a self-soothing thing. It's very interesting.
I
Anyway,
remember the boys had fidget spinners before they became popular. Their cousin bought them.
mm,
They were like, "Oh, these things are so cool." You know, the little
yeah,
spinners.
yeah,
So they took them to school. Everyone at school, they were just like, "What is that? Where
yeah,
did you get it?" Yeah. So
mhm,
they started a thing up at their
yeah,
school
yeah.
with the
But
fidget spinners.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
so
pretty
you
funny.
know, a lot of the kids they were doing that because it was cool, right? But there's
Mhm.
actual kids and people who need that,
Needed it. Yeah.
you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so it's cool that there are things like that.
We need them.
Yeah. See, I mean, I would say that we are coping with that in a healthy way by doing that. And it's might be
Yeah.
weird, but it's
No.
healthy compared to turning to drugs and alcohol and
Um,
running away from your problems and stuff like
yeah.
that. So yeah. Yeah. Oh, another thing too that I dealt with, like, because you know, when you're talking in therapy or talking about hard things, sometimes like it's intense, right? And your body is actually in your brain is feeling those things, even if you're shutting out your emotions, your body is feeling it and reacting.
Yeah.
I would get really sweaty.
Yeah.
Like armpits would be sweating, just having just random sweat spots. That's another um symptom or
I
sign.
would bring a shirt with me
Yeah.
because I knew I would need to change it because
Yeah.
the rain's up under. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
So there's a lot of physical ways that our body responds to anxiety, and that's one of them too. Um, and
what
it's
do
like
you,
it looks different than what you think. You're not just sitting there like shaking and that's part of it, being shaky and nervous. But like our bodies react in other ways too. Another unfortunate way that anxiety really affects me is, you know, like it messes my stomach up. And so like before every, you know, counseling session that I've ever done, I've had to like run to the bathroom multiple times because it would give me diarrhea. And so if you're struggling with that, just know you're not alone. And
no,
uh,
I
it's
think everybody deals with that. Like the plane ride when I made it to Wisconsin, I had to run to the bathroom.
yeah,
I'm like seeing his dad. I'm like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom right now. So I just went
yeah,
to the bathroom,
it's
and then
so
we had to stop on the way
mhm.
to his house. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
we gotta stop at a store. I have to go really bad.
you
So
know what's funny? That happened to me whenever Billy and I were dating. Uh,
Mhm.
like I would go to football games with his family or whatever, and like on the way home, like I have diarrhea just randomly. Now I know that it was anxiety, but
Exciting. Yeah.
I didn't
It
know that.
messes your tummy up. Why is that? It's so weird
You know,
how it can affect your tummy.
yeah, it's like a physical thing. It's just
Yeah.
like overwhelmed. Your system is overwhelmed, and so
Mhm.
you know
I bet
sometimes
that happens to a lot of people.
it does,
Like
and they don't
uh,
realize it.
they
Yeah,
get the anxiety squirts.
that should basically be in every, you know, like manual,
But
diagnostic manual. Do you have diarrhea? You know, with your anxiety. They're like writing it down. Anyway, so, you know, anxiety basically is this uneasiness that we feel. A lot of it's, you know, situational. Sometimes you know, being triggered from past traumas, right? So, you
we're
know,
not born with it though, are
yeah, I
we?
don't think so.
I don't think so.
And like there's natural you know anxiety situations like when you read about separation anxiety that children go through like that is you know part of living on earth you're
That hurts. The
yeah
separation anxiety hurts. I
yeah
remember being hurt whenever we'd have to come home from
mhm,
going to Lisa's
yeah right
and
and
grab.
physical hormone yeah
Remember that it hurt. Like it
yeah
hurts
I
your
know
heart.
right and
Yeah.
part of that I mean that was like an unnatural separation though like you know
True.
like
True.
toddlers being separated from their parents because they went to the other room you know
Oh, yeah.
you eventually outgrow some of that but the separation that you're talking about like we literally were separated from our family you know what I mean and just with that fear that we'd never see them again you know and that's traumatic and that's probably why we have had anxiety you know like part
Oh,
of.
there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons. Abuse, and just all the things that can cause
All
that.
the things.
Yeah, and so, you know, I kind of wanted to talk about how do you get rid of it? In a way, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask. I don't think you can though.
Yeah,
It's
a lot of the times,
something
sometimes
we're
you
stuck
can.
with.
It just
Yeah.
depends on
Yeah.
the situation. You know, like sometimes it's facing whatever situation you're having anxiety about, like facing that fear. Because at the end of the day, I think fear, a lot of that is what drives anxiety, just feeling fearful of certain things because it's unexpected, or you know what the outcome is going to be, or just whatever, you know, like just not being in control of this and not knowing, you know, what's going to happen, I guess, can just the fear of the unknown, or I don't know if I'm,
Fear of standing in front of a bunch of people, like I wouldn't be able to do that. That would give me anxiety.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
nerve-wracking. Um, but anyway, so, you know, there's a lot of different things that can cause anxiety, and some anxieties can be gotten rid of, but some can't. You know, it just really depends on, you know, if it's like from childhood trauma, because that messes you up for life. Unfortunately, you can learn tools and coping mechanisms and better thought processes. And also just being aware of it has really helped me a lot, because when I start feeling it coming on, I notice it immediately and I'm like, okay,
You can talk yourself down
yeah, like
or
what's
talk
going on?
yourself
Why am I
out of
feeling
it.
like this?
Yeah.
Right. And so that has been very helpful. It hasn't gotten rid of it, but it's been helpful. I'm like, okay, because it helps me with my decisions that I make next. I'm not going to
Mhm.
like make irrational decisions, you know,
Right.
not, if that makes sense at all. So,
It does.
yeah. And so you've gone through anxiety, I've gone through anxiety. You know, and the Bible, you know, talks about anxiety, and it's really interesting reading through the Psalms.
Does it use the word anxiety?
Yeah, there's anxiety in there.
Okay.
And of course that's been translated. I'm sure maybe they had a different word for it back when it was written. Um, but like David, he wrote a lot of the Psalms and it talks about anxiety. Like, so anxiety is not a new problem, right? This has been around forever. And
Mhm.
I love how honest like some of the people in the Bible are about it. Like David, you know, he talks about his anxiety. It's so very, very cool to read through the Psalms after learning a lot about psychology, because David was messed up with some of
Mhm.
the stuff that he's writing. He talks about how he was laying in his bed all night crying. He couldn't sleep because and I'm like, anxiety, you know, and just like so fearful over everything. Anxiety. Like it's just really neat because it like helps him be relatable. And so what
Yes.
did he do in those moments? Obviously, they didn't have therapists back then. So what did he do? He cried out to the Lord and the Lord helped him, you know, with a lot of things. And we can still, that could be part of our coping mechanism today,
Praying.
praying in those
Yeah.
moments, like asking the,
That's helped me through a lot too. Just
yeah.
prayer. Just
Mhm.
talking to the Lord about things. Just
Yeah.
getting it out,
Yes.
saying it, even thinking it.
Mhm.
Do
Yeah.
you think prayers? Do you
Yeah.
ever?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. I think them more than I say them out loud.
I do too.
I'm such an internal person. So for me, some people are like, oh, I have to say it out loud. And I'm like,
No,
they're just
I'm
in their
thinking
room.
it right now.
They're in their room saying it out loud. And I'm like, I
I
don't do
like
that.
to think it. Mhm.
But apparently there is power. Apparently
Apparently.
there is power in speaking things though.
Okay.
So to speak truth to yourself, like speaking the word of God, like, you know, for instance, Philippians 4:6, I have this pulled up. I don't have it memorized. It says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the
Yeah.
peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ. You know, and just remembering that you can cast your cares on the Lord, and, you know, just arming yourself with scripture in those moments can be very helpful. That, you know, and but if you have been through a lot of trauma or like abusive situations, there is still wisdom in seeking counsel for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
like that spectrum, you know, the basic anxieties. Yes, we deal with that with the Lord, you know, that's a no-brainer. But like the further on the spectrum you get and the reasons why you're having anxiety, if it's because of abuse or past traumas or whatever, you really need to deal with those with like a Christian counselor, because it's God and the counselor helping you overcome some of that stuff. So, you know,
And sometimes it's necessary, you know, we
right,
can't do it on our own.
right, right. And, you know, we are called to bear one another's burdens. So is there a fly?
It's like a little gnat, not really a fly.
Mhm. Oh, a gnat, like a fruit fly. You know what's
Yeah.
funny about that? You know, here in Arkansas, like over the summer, the flies are awful.
Are
Like,
they?
they are so bad, way worse.
Like
than
in our
winter.
house?
They get in the house, but they're
Yeah.
outside. They're horrible. Like you know, the college team mascot here is a pig, like a razorback pig. And
Okay.
I keep saying they need to be the flies, because the
There's
flies
so
are
many
so
flies.
bad, and they're just like, that is what Arkansas should be known for, is the flies.
Yeah.
It's bad. You remember that video that Haley did of Haley and Juliana? They did it of the eating or wear it challenge, eat it or wear it challenge,
Yes.
where they
Yes.
were eating and we were outside. Do you
Yeah,
remember
the
the
flies
flies?
were, yes, I do. I
Yes,
remember that.
disgusting. Anyway, okay, so that's normally really bad over the summer, but then by the time it's, you know, getting into September, they're
Mhm.
gone, you know. But when I had an interview for that internship that I was telling you about,
Yeah.
with this Christian writer lady, I did an interview with her, and you know, hadn't seen a fly in months. Okay, hadn't seen a fly in months, and I'm sitting here doing this through Zoom, and there's a stinking fly flying around my head. I'm like, where did the fly come from? And I can't just like, you know. So every time she'd like look away, I'd go like, I hope that wasn't recorded. I don't think it was, but like every time she'd like look away or look at something or write something, I'd be like, you know, because it's like trying to land on my head.
Why do they do that? It's like they're
Well,
attracted to our oil or something. I don't know.
I don't know what it is. So
I
anyway,
do. I hate flies. I have to kill them. I have to kill them.
me too.
Childhood trauma. I don't want
Yes,
maggots.
childhood trauma. That is literally childhood trauma, because we grew up in a house where we had so many flies in it, and they didn't
Yes.
get dealt with, and it turned into.
Horrible. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
We
We
would
would
wake up and walk out into, they were in the living room,
yeah.
falling from the kitchen. They were all over the carpet.
Yeah, so just to share with you guys a little peek into what it was like growing up, we, like, Alicia and I were the only ones in a house full of 7 who actually cleaned, and we were children, you know. The
Yeah.
best we could do, we did, but the trash was always overflowing, and it was just really kind of messy and dirty. And so sometimes if the trash was left in the kitchen, like piled up or whatever, you know, flies would get in there. And so like there were several times where we would wake up, and so we had the kitchen, and then we had a little doorway that separated the kitchen from the living room. And so we would wake up and go towards the kitchen, and there would be maggots kind of crawling on the carpet of the living room. And we're like,
Yeah.
Where'd those come from? You know, and so we'd get closer and closer to the kitchen, and you go into the kitchen, and the floor is just
It's
covered,
covered.
covered with maggots, you know. So that's stuff that we have experienced multiple
We
times.
had to clean that up. What did we do? Use the dustpan? Didn't we
Yeah,
like,
we tried to sweep them up. Yeah, because
yeah.
the vacuum probably never worked most of the time. So we had to clean it up with a
You remember scrubbing the carpets?
yes,
We had bowl and then we would scrub the carpets
yeah.
and then dry it. Oh
We
man.
tried. We tried so hard to
We
keep that
tried.
clean.
Yeah, it was hard.
And now we're like, "Ah, flies, you know,
Yeah.
anxiety. We got anxiety about flies, you know, and maggots. Yeah, no, for real though. But still, I mean, that's just basic cleanliness, you know. But yeah, but we do have some triggers from that. But anyway, it's funny that a fly was flying around you, because that happened to me too on Zoom. And anyway, what were you saying though about aside from the fly thing? Oh, praying, how that helps you. Is that what you were saying?
Oh yeah.
We lost
Praying
that
helps with anxiety. Definitely. Praying. Just giving it to God, letting him just like come and just soothe you.
Mhm.
He will. You'll
Yeah.
feel him. Just
He gives you
relax. Just relax. Like, it's not that big a deal. Just
right.
get out of your head. Just
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah, breathe, just pray. Like I have had a lot of times where like I'd be in this funk and just feeling like so overwhelmed, and I would literally pray, Lord, please just take over. Just give me peace, help me. And it's always instantaneous whenever I
Oh
pray
yeah.
that.
If you have faith that he'll do that for you, it happens. It's amazing. It is. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so like those are the basic anxiety things, but like I said, when you have a lot of like trauma that is unhealed, praying in those moments is still good, but a lot of times that trauma needs to be healed. And so that's why it would be beneficial to process through some of that stuff with a counselor so that you can have healing. Because like I said, we all are going to have basic anxiety, from time to time, but the deeper stuff that leads to panic attacks and stuff like that, that stuff needs to be helped with.
Yes, they can give you the tools to help you, you know.
Yeah. So yes, that's anxiety in a nutshell. And
Yes. So, yes.
obviously,
So,
anyway,
yes.
yes. Anyway,
So,
so I say, so, I haven't said, I think I've been healed of that, last week I said, or
you know what I mean?
not last week, but
That's exciting.
yes. See, but basically,
No.
you know what we're saying here. We're not, obviously, just as a disclaimer, we're not counselors, we're not, qualified.
We're just
Really,
human.
we're just trying to
human
share.
women.
Yeah, we're sharing our own experience here of just how God has really helped highlight that and how he has shown us to kind of help with that, whether it's breathing, praying, just laughing, yes. You know, not freaking out and kind of feeding it. And sometimes we can feed the anxiety, and I've noticed that depending on who you're around, if you struggle with anxiety, it's probably not best to hang out with people who also struggle with anxiety because you are like feeding off of each other. I've had that happen, and of course, sometimes there will be times where you have to be around that person just to be mindful of that, being self-aware, like, okay, they're really anxious right now. Let me stay grounded so that I'm not feeding off of that, or, that type of thing. So there's a lot to it. And obviously we can't cover all of it, but, both of us, I think, have had so many things in our lives that have contributed to having anxiety, but we've also, seen victory and being able to manage it and cope well and things like that. So our bodies are definitely unique, and I don't know. I just think it's really neat to talk about this stuff because a lot of people like me, or they just go through life not realizing that that's what it is and that's why they feel that way. And this is how you can help it. I think understanding it and recognizing it is like the first step to like healing and helping cope in a healthy way. So basically, if you're like Alicia's dog who just shakes uncontrollably, you might be hungry, just go eat. No. And then laugh, and then rip up some paper and
get a fidget spinner.
a fidget spinner, basically. So all of these things now. But
you want a pencil?
yes, biting your nails is one.
I started biting my nails. Well, only because they keep breaking.
Okay.
They'll start to grow out, and then they'll break, and then they all need to be even.
Do you
So
paint,
I have to,
do you
no.
paint them? You should
No, I don't.
your polish.
The toxic. Is there toxins in clear polish?
I don't know. Probably.
I don't worry about it.
I mean,
I quit painting my toenails and fingernails years ago.
I don't think it's.
I read an article about it. The toxins go into your nails and then cause issues. So
my nails have been very strong.
have they? What about your brain?
I don't know. I'm suffering with anxiety, so maybe that's where it's from. It's from the nail polish, guys. So anyway,
well, send it to me. Take a picture of it and send it to me. So I'll know.
I haven't had any issues with it. So
okay. Yeah, that's one of my fears about nail polish.
Yeah,
I read an article about it and I was like, that actually makes sense.
And it helps me, so I don't know. Maybe it's affecting me in ways that I don't realize, but my nails have never looked better. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm losing strength in them. They're like becoming more brittle. I guess I need vitamins.
Vitamins are good. Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing too, is making sure that your health is good, like drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, eating the right types of foods also have an impact on
I
anxiety.
struggle with that.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I do too. It's
I
annoying.
had 2 fudge rounds after dinner last night.
You had what?
2 fudge rounds.
Only two? No, I was kidding.
Only
I-
2. No, I'm not gonna eat a whole box again.
Yeah. That's
Those lemon drizzles, they were so good though.
well, you said you ate like a whole watermelon one time, right?
Yeah, I'll still do that.
Anxiety. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like the way it tastes. It's just so good.
That's healthier.
Tasty.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there's so much here, but a lot of it stems from past trauma, past abuse, blah, blah, blah. You know, we know all of that, but I'm excited to continue kind of delving in deeper to some of these topics. And, you know, anxiety is like the basic one, you know, that I think most people can relate to, but there are some others that, you know, maybe some people didn't know that they had. And hopefully if we shine a light on some of this stuff, it can be helpful and healing. So
Yes, that is the goal.
yeah, so we'll stay tuned for, you know, whatever the next psychological thing that I've been struggling with is that we can talk about
Okay.
that I've learned about myself. Because it's been very healing to learn this stuff. But anyway, so thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to all of our stories about maggots and all the things. I'm sure you'll want to hear about the next thing. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's probably
I
going
was
to be
gonna say, what is it?
that was my child.
Balloons.
Balloons. Some people have, yes, phobias. Anyway, of balloons.
The dog's throwing up. I can hear him.
Is he
Yeah.
anxious? Anxiety.
He drinks water way too fast. It's so frustrating. But I didn't tell him.
Yeah.
So he's throwing up now. That's what he gets. I've been telling him for days.
Throwing
Stop
up.
drinking it so fast and you won't throw up. But no,
He
he's
doesn't.
not listening to me.
He just sometimes.
But he eats the throw up after he does it though.
Okay, good. So you don't gotta clean it. I mean,
Cleans up his own mess.
good. Good. So you're good. You're good. Just let him do it. Let him learn. Anyway, cool. Anxiety.
Yeah. Probably. I know it's Jasper. It sounds like him. There was some sirens a few minutes ago, so maybe.
He was drinking water because of the anxiety.
Yep, the ambulance in the background triggered it.
Triggered. He got triggered.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well,
Goodbye.
yes, we will see you next time. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for our next awesome video.
Bye, Fatera.
Bye, Felicia. Peace.